Hello and welcome back to the Auto Social UK YouTube channel and to an all new car review. Now I've been lucky enough on this channel to get my hands on tons of all electric SUVs, and if you want to see a few more of those videos I'll pop a link to the playlist up in that top corner. But there's one car that came out in 2018 that set a benchmark, and that's the all electric Kona. Now I've been lucky enough to get my hands on this 39 kilowatt battery car, which is the smaller of the two batteries, producing around 180 miles. It also comes in a larger 64 kilowatt option, which gives you just under 300, which is really competitive to more expensive premium vehicles like the Jaguar I-Pace and also the Tesla. But is it still worth buying the smaller battery car? And does this car live up to the expectations? Because this is really raved about by its owners. They're the questions that I'm going to be answering in today's video. So if that sounds good, please make sure you keep on watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Okay, let's start by talking about the styling of the Hyundai KONA. Now Hyundai is of course a Korean brand, and you can really tell that by the styling of this car. It's got a very emotive feel, very similar to the Honda E. It's got almost a cartoon style look. In fact, over on my Instagram, which if you don't follow, you should go do that now, we've been talking about what kind of Pokemon this reminds us of. In 2020, it got a facelift, and that gave us a new, smoother front grille, which I'm not completely sold on. I feel like it slightly misses something. We also got a new style of LED lights. Finished in this blue, it really does look striking, but I almost feel like the black roof would kind of split things up a bit and give it a slight edge over this car. It also comes with a very nice set of alloy wheels, which start from 17 inches even on the lower spec models. I really like the two-tone design and the fact that these look slightly electric but still are a classic alloy and not those nasty hubcaps. The side profile of the car is much more sporty than the front, with a few more curves and lines. This version, which is the premium model, also gets rear tinted windows, which certainly finish off that two-tone look. If boot space is a real priority for you, this might be where the Hyundai KONA gets ruled out, as it's certainly not its forte. You'll find more space in the Peugeot 2008, the Nissan Leaf and even the Renault Zoe. In the back here you'll fit around 5 carry-on suitcases, so it's certainly not small. It'll be okay for the average family. Unfortunately, there's also no underfloor boot storage, so that means there's nowhere to put your cables and they'll need to sit in the boot. Just like the boot space, the rear space is not one of the best in its class. I've got a reasonable amount of headroom and I won't have too much problem unless I'm over 6 foot. However, knee space is slightly limited. I'm not particularly tall and this seat is in my position and I've not got much knee room, so I wouldn't want to sit behind a tall driver. I do have a centre armrest with a couple of cup holders, but unfortunately there's no USB ports back here. Considering the fun Korean-inspired exterior, the interior feels much more sensible and could be borderlining on a little bit dull, especially with these grey cloth seats. If you do go for the top spec model, you do get leather seats, and I think that would bring just the quality of the interior up slightly. Talking about quality, a lot of car reviews I watched kind of moaned about the quality inside the cabin, saying that they didn't think it was very good. And I beg to differ. I actually quite like the quality of the interior. Everything feels really solid, and I like the fact that they haven't gone for black gloss. Yes, okay, this is just painted plastic, but I still prefer it over the gloss as it doesn't get quite so dirty. Practicality is also very, very good. The fact that you don't have a centre transmission tunnel means that you've got tons of storage under this floating kind of centre console. You've got lots of storage on the armrest, a couple of decent sized cup holders, and you have a little bit of front storage with wireless phone charging in this model. Speaking of which, this is the middle spec model, but I still get tons of technology. I've got that wireless charging, heated seats, a heated steering wheel, which are sometimes quite rare in an EV. I've also got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, satellite navigation, adaptive cruise control, automatic lights, automatic wipers, so it really does have everything you would need. The only reason you'd want to step up to the ultimate model was to get the electric leather seats. But to be honest, I think this is the model to go for. Those two different size batteries also come with two different claimed outputs. So the smaller battery, the 39 kilowatt, actually has 134 brake horsepower and has a claimed 0 to 60 time from Hyundai of around 10 seconds. However, in many long-term testing, it has been proven that actually the Hyundai KONA smashes this claimed time by as much as almost 2 seconds, putting the 0 to 62 time in the smaller battery car nearly 8 seconds, which is anything but slow. In fact, even the small battery KONA feels really quite rapid and it picks up speed quickly. It does tend to lose its speed relatively quickly as well, so as soon as you get to around 40 miles per hour, that's when it starts to tail off. The larger battery, however, really gives you a bit of a thrill when it comes to driving. That 64 kilowatt battery gets 201 brake horsepower and goes from 0 to 60 in around 7 seconds, which makes it hot hatch territory. And because all your power is really when you first stick your foot down, it will almost throw you back in your seat and is really quite impressive. If you want that thrill from driving, then the larger battery is definitely going to give you that. But even the small battery is definitely adequate when it comes to an enjoyable drive. Might offer punchy performance, but it's certainly not the quickest EV on the road. Of course, things like the Tesla are going to blow it out of the water, and if you wanted to go for a smaller hatchback car like the Mini Electric or the Honda E, these cars are going to give you that go-kart connection with the steering wheel. So if it's thrills around the back road that you're after, then a car like that might be better suited. But if you want a good driving EV that mixes comfortable drive with a little bit of performance, then the KONA sits somewhere in the middle, and I think it's a happy medium. Now here's where the Hyundai KONA keeps its owners so happy, and that's with the claimed range. So the claimed range of the 39 kilowatt battery is around 180, and then the claimed range for the larger battery used to be 280, but it's actually jumped up to 300 now it's had its facelift in 2020. And that's because the Hyundai KONA is one of the best cars for getting a similar claimed range to what they say from WLTP. So in real world testing, the smaller battery gets around 159 miles and the larger battery gets around 270. But actually, I've seen on some owners groups that the larger battery car will smash that. It will even claim 310. And that's because it's constantly testing and changing different things depending on whether you're using your air conditioning, how you're driving the car, and it will give you a proper predicted range. And this predicted range can be relied on, and this is what I love about this electric car. Some things I found not particularly great with, say, the Nissan Leaf, is that if this car says I've got 30 miles, I know that as long as I'm not pushing it too hard, I've got 30 miles, and that makes me feel a lot more confident in the drive. There's a set of paddles behind the steering wheel where you would usually find your manual gears in an automatic car, but of course this is an EV, so it doesn't have gears. In this case, it's your regenerative braking, and you can turn it up and turn it down on the steering wheel, which I really like. I really like to have my regenerative braking put on as strongly as you can. And the good news with the Hyundai KONA is the regenerative braking in its full force will bring you to a complete stop for regenerative braking. But I do like having it behind the steering wheel so that you can quickly switch between it. Like all good EVs, the Hyundai KONA comes with tons of safety equipment. So I've got blind spot monitoring and also rear cross traffic alert on every car above the bottom spec SE trim. I've got forward collision and lane assist. Now the only thing that I found with the Hyundai is that the lane assist is very, very sensitive. Now I'm someone that actually uses my indicators. I know, round of applause for me. So actually I don't normally find lane assist irritating. But in the KONA, it seems to be very sensitive. As soon as you even slightly drift over a lane, not only do you get the pulling of the steering wheel, you also get the bleeping sound on the dashboard as well. So I've gone into the settings, and I'll have to be honest, I've turned it off completely. I actually don't mind it kind of playing with the steering wheel and pulling me across, but it's the bleeping that irritates me, because I just find it a little bit interruptive if you're listening to music or a podcast. But the strange thing is you have the option to turn it off completely. You have the option to turn off the pulling of the steering wheel, but no option to keep the pulling of the steering wheel on and the sound off, which I find kind of weird because that would be my happy medium. But apart from that, it's a very, very small niggle and it's easy to turn off, so I don't find it too much of an issue. The Kona comes with a Type 2 charger as standard and takes around 6 hours to charge this smaller battery car from a 7 kilowatt at-home charger. It will take around 9 hours to charge the larger 64 kilowatt car. If you find a fast charger like I have here at GridServe, the smaller car can charge up to 50 kilowatts and that takes around 47 minutes from 0 to 80%. The larger vehicle with the 64 kilowatt battery will actually take an 100 kilowatt charger, which takes the same time for an extra 100 miles. However, this is still behind some other brands which can take up to 150 kilowatts, which will give you the same amount of charge in just 20 minutes. So if your driving consists of more than just local driving and you do a few longer journeys, should you only be opting for the larger battery and rule out the 39 kilowatt altogether? Well, no, not really, I don't think so. 160 realistic miles is still relatively good, as long as you've got an at-home wall box which you can charge overnight and you've got a good charging infrastructure around you. I can't really see it being a problem. The only time it will be a problem is those charging times, and I feel like they let the Kona down slightly. The fact that it can only take 50 kilowatt charging does mean that when you're waiting for a 0 to 80% charge at a charging station, that you're still going to be sitting there for around an hour, which is a little bit of a shame. And for this reason, if you're planning on doing a lot of long journeys which require a stop off in between, then I would probably opt for the larger battery, just so that you can get the 100 kilowatt charging and knock that time down to get a few extra miles. But apart from that, if you're not too worried about a small wait, I mean realistically, what is an hour nowadays? That's enough time to get some lunch, get a coffee, and for a halfway journey, I don't think it's too bad. But if you can afford to go for the larger battery, and if it fits into your life, then I think you should probably go for that one. So how have I found my week spent with the 39 kilowatt Hyundai KONA? Well, it's actually been really enjoyable. It's nippy and responsive around town, it's quiet and comfortable. I can't really report on practicality because I haven't carried any passengers, but it feels light and airy in this cabin. It's also got a good amount of range. So I've got the smaller battery car and I do 40 miles a day, but I've only had to charge this car once. And all I did was took an hour out of my day and went and did some work in the car whilst it was charging, which doesn't seem too much of a problem. I do just find that charging speed a little bit of a downside. 50 kilowatt charging nowadays is quite slow. If I had the larger battery car, I could have got an extra 100 miles in the same time. So maybe I would opt for the bigger battery. The lane assist was a little bit irritating, but once I turned that off, it was fine. And I also quite like options like it tells you when the traffic is moving on ahead, because that means if I'm daydreaming, which I do a little bit more than I care to admit, I'm not going to miss the traffic lights. So it might just fall short on charging times and practicality, but somewhere where it really excels is reliability and the warranty package. Hyundai give you a 5-year unlimited mileage warranty, and it's among one of the most reliable EVs that you can buy. So you can see why customers are so pleased with their Hyundai Konas. Not only are they reliable, but they also have some real usable range, which isn't that far off of the predicted. But how much is a Hyundai Kona going to cost you? Well, if you go for the smaller battery model, all versions of the Hyundai Kona fit under that £35,000 mark, starting at just above £30,000, meaning with the £2,500 government grant, it's going to set you back around £28,000, which all things considered with everything you get, sounds a pretty good deal. But what if you need that bigger battery? Well, all bar the top spec model fit under the £35,000 mark, so again you get the £2,500 government grant. But they also are pretty good on leasing options. I found a brilliant deal on LeaseLoco.co.uk. They have a zero deposit lease option in which you can get a Hyundai KONA 64 kilowatt for just over £319 a month. Alternatively, with just over £2,500 deposit, that brings the price down at just under £260. And both deals have a 95% LeaseLoco score, making them some of the hottest on the market. So if that sounds good, why not check it out and click the link in the description box. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, go ahead and give it a massive thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much, and until next time, bye.